At least 15 people died in a mass shooting at a Hanukkah celebration in Australia over the weekend. The impact is being felt in local Jewish communities. WABI spoke with the president of Congregation Beth Israel in Bangor about the tragic event. He says going into the holiday season, there's often tension around Jewish practices, but an important aspect of Hanukkah is it's rooted in the Hebrew word dedication. He says now more than ever, it's important to do just that and find kindness in our hearts.
Finding that within each other is the recipe. We rededicate ourselves to finding the humanity in each other and just focus on that really hard. And I think that we could, we could get over this stuff. And that's the message of our holiday is finding light in the darkness. And every little light, even just the smallest light extinguishes so much darkness. And we can do that together.
He says community leaders and politicians should speak up about the rise in anti-Semitic attacks.